All right, everyone. Persona 3 Reloaded releases next week. And I want to be done with this book by then because like the TikTok videos and stuff are just faster and a little easier to edit than this. So I'm gonna just go ahead and finish this up, and then we will be doing a whole round of the different podcasts that I follow. Well, I say different podcasts. I think it's only two, and I need to look them up again because I don't remember what they're called, but like I know which ones I want to cover. And then unsolicited was one, and then what was the other one? Maintenance phase. That was it. Maintenance phase. So we're gonna look at those. We're gonna finish the jock scientist here in the TikTok, and then I'll probably finish up. This probably won't, unfortunately, won't be until March, but I'll finish it up with part two of the levels of debate video for ad hominem attacks. But for now, we are just finishing up Starfish. This is the last part, you guys. Not my first rodeo. Whoa! Dad uses his firm rodeo voice as if I'm a horse out of control when I slam the front door. What you all bowed up about? As if you don't know, I pound up the stairs. Mom slams the front door. Get back here, Eliana Elizabeth. She's ready for another go around. Bring it on. You Judased me, Dad. You said you never would, and you did. What incarnation are you talking about? He says. He looks at me, then Mom. Somebody better tell me what's going on here. Mom's motionless, quiet. Then it hits me, like a big whiff of fresh bullcrap in the arena. Dad doesn't know. She's gone behind both of our backs. This ought to be good. How do you see all this playing out, Mom? Dad leaves for work one day. You sneak me to the hospital. I have weight loss surgery, and we're home by dinner? Dad jerks his head toward Mom, who's staring at the floor. One thing Zaid taught me was if a person can't look you in the eye, you've got big problems, Dad says. Big problems. Mom folds her arms across her chest and heads toward Dad's office, her heels clicking. He follows her, then stops and looks at me, still frozen on the stairs. I'm so sorry, Ellie. Truly I am. He slams his office door, and their biggest fight ever begins. Waves of emotion. What's up? Doc leans in, rests her elbows on her knees and her chin in her hands. Mom took me to a doctor, a bariatric surgeon. I tell Doc everything. You're definitely a storyteller. You described it perfectly. But you're also a poet, so tell me how it made you feel. I shake my head. Facing feelings is like swimming in a stormy ocean. One wave of emotion hits, and then another and another until I feel like I'm drowning. That's why you're going to learn how to face each feeling as it comes. So you just face one wave at a time, not an ocean. Which wave first? Well, you're a writer. So let's start with a bunch of words. Name all the feelings you have. Then you can choose. Doc throws open her arms. Toss 'em out, no particular order. I start slowly, thinking about the surgery, being cut open, scared. I think about Mom making me look in the mirror. Ugly. Then the words come rapid fire. Ashamed, embarrassed, mad. Good. Doc takes note. Let's dive deeper with one of those. Give me synonyms for mad. I clench my jaw. Furious. I raise my voice, livid. I almost spit each syllable, seething. I spring up off the couch. Doc rolls back her chair, gives me space to pace from one side of the room to the other, like doing laps in a pool. I don't, it could just be I don't know how, like, children's therapy works, but there's something about, like, you're definitely a storyteller. You described that perfectly, but you're also a poet. Like, I don't know that, like, it's to get to how Ellie's feeling, and I get that, but there's something about describing her as a storyteller and a poet that just seems kind of off to me. I don't know. It almost feels I don't know. There's something about that that bugs me. Supposed to. My arms flail like I'm swimming on land, a fish out of water. To drag me in there like I'm a freak of nature and want him to cut me, slice me open, rearrange and reattach organs just because of this. I grab my stomach, shake it. It's not what a mom should do. I collapse onto the couch, hug the pillow to my chest, hiding my heart, not my stomach. Mom shouldn't do that. Tears flow as I rock back and forth. She's supposed to love me. My voice is a whisper. Just love me. Then I stop crying. The pillow's wet. I think I owe you a new one. Don't worry. I'll bill it to your mom, Doc winks. You've come a long way. So no more sessions? I act like an excited puppy. But you'd miss me, Doc says. Actually, I would, I admit. I like coming here. You've really helped me. I've learned a lot. It's important you learn that not all doctors are like the ones your mom's taken you to. Try to find a doctor you like. I'll explain to your parents why it should be your choice. They shouldn't have any say so. Mom with no say so. It's about time. This again, I think maybe it's just like it's trying to wrap it up too like neatly or something, but this doesn't this a lot of the things in this feel artificial, but this especially just there's something about that just feels fan fictiony. I don't know. Strikes one, two, three. Dad and I create a list of the top 10 doctors to try. At the first appointment, the nurse tisks when she weighs me. I turn around and leave. At the second appointment, with each pump of the black bulb, the blood pressure cuff constricts my arm like a hungry boa until I think my skin will burst open and my arm starts to bruise. When I wince, the nurse says, "Blame your big arm." I scoot off the table and leave. Dad calls her more prickly than a West Texas cactus. With the third appointment, the doctor just stares at my stomach. An octopus could be wrapped around my face and he wouldn't see it. I almost moon him to see if he'd notice that, but my butt deserves better. I slam the door as I leave. She's 11. She's fucking 11. I find it, even with the therapy she's had, I have a hard time believing that she would be confident enough to act like this. This seems far more like the fat acceptance talking points just shoehorned in there than what an 11-year-old would actually be able to do. Forgiven. When we get in Dad's pickup after the third appointment, he doesn't start the engine. He cries. I stare out the window as if the orange wavy W of the Whataburger sign nearby hypnotizes me. I can't look at Dad when he's crying. It'll make me cry. I'm so sorry, Ellie. I wish I'd known your mom was parading you around town to doctor after doctor and letting them treat you like this. I didn't want to cause yet another fight by telling you if you didn't know. Forgive me? Forgive Dad. But it's Mom who needs to say, I'm sorry. This is letting Dad way off the hook for me. I don't like that Dad is portrayed as like the good parent when this has clearly been going on since Ellie was very small. I find it hard to believe that he didn't know about any level of what the mother was doing. Like we've seen even parts of her like berating Ellie in front of him and he did nothing. Like to act as though he was completely ignorant of everything is just kind of I don't like that it's demonizing the mother, even though the mother is like very abusive. There's just something about the story of demonizing Mom and letting Dad completely off the hook. I think that's what it is. Because Mom was definitely far more in the wrong than Dad. I can totally see that, like, absolutely. But to let him completely off the hook and act like he is like the good parent that just didn't know when there's been a bunch of shit that's happening, including his son bullying his youngest daughter right in front of him that he never did anything about. And they act like that whole confrontation in Thanksgiving. Notice that her brother has not made another appearance since then. I find that very hard to believe that there wouldn't be more aftermath to that whole confrontation that's just completely unaddressed. And I understand this is a middle grade book, but it's trying to tackle some big subjects, so it should do so more completely than it is. I still have a problem with the way Dad handled the whole bullying brother situation because the time for Dad to step up for me was the chair incident in math class that the brother brought up just to be cruel, not the Thanksgiving where the brother kind of had at least a semi-legitimate point of anger with the shitty like cauliflower mashed potatoes and steamed Brussels sprouts and dry ass turkey breast. That was misdirected anger 100%, like he should not have bullied his sister, but that was more misdirected anger than cruelty, where the chair thing was just complete cruelty on his part. Like, it just seemed like the chair incident would have been a far better turning point for Dad than Thanksgiving. But we need to get through this. I need to stop talking so much, but I can't help myself. This is so bad. One size does not fit all. Doctors are like clothes. One size does not fit all, not even close. So I try on yet another one. Regular and oversized chairs fill the waiting room, so everyone can be comfortable. Want to know the number? The nurse asks me as she weighs me. I have a choice. Power. Rights. Finally. I shake my head. Okay then, step on backward. Dad makes lame jokes, trying to ease the tension as we wait in the exam room. After a gentle knock on the door, it opens. Hi, you must be Ellie. She looks me in the eyes, doesn't stare at my stomach. So far, so good. Speak up, Buttercup. As they say, everything's bigger in Texas. 6'4", and the weather up here's just fine, she says, answering the questions I'm not asking out loud. I'm Dr. Vasquez, but most folks call me Dr. V. She isn't skinny, but she's not obese. What brings you here today, Ellie? She sits down on the stool. I swing my feet, dangling over the table, and search for the right words. Speak up, Buttercup, or I can't help you. I'm trying to find a doctor, one who won't say, looked in a mirror lately, or at least your parents won't have to worry about boys asking you out in a few years. And if you mention bariatric surgery, I'm leaving. I don't mean to, but I cry. Dr. V hands me a tissue. If all that happened to me, I'd cry too. She talks all during the exam. Let me just tell ya, I have sick patients of all sizes. I have healthy patients at all sizes. I'm not small, but I take care of my body. I get a checkup every 6 months. I try to eat as healthy as I can, minus chocolate, because hello, what's life without chocolate? And okay, steak off the grill, because hello, Texas. I don't go to the gym, but I contra dance, which is, well, look it up when you get home. She apologizes for the other doctors, applauds me for my daily swims, and treats me like I'm a person, not a problem. I make an appointment for a 6 month checkup with Dr. V because, hello, I like her. I'm. This is like. I guess this could have happened prior to the beginning of the book, but I mean, they've had so much time. Like, Lisa Phipps has had the past, we're on page 216. She has had over 200 pages to give us an idea of how doctors treat Ellie outside of the bariatric. Like, with how nutty her mother is, we could have, like, taken out the airplane scene, which was just FA talking points anyway, and put in something about doctors saying inappropriate things like looked in a mirror lately, or at least your parents won't have to worry about boys asking you out in a few years to illustrate that Ellie's actually dealt with that. Because let's keep in mind, Ellie's 11. Ellie's 11. I find that at least your parents won't have to worry about boys asking you out in a few years to be a very weird comment. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? Like, clearly this is something borrowed the from most likely Lisa Phipps' past. I don't know if 11 was the right age, but there's just something so shoehorned and awkward about this whole interaction. A nice moment with Mom. Got a minute? Mom asks while standing in my bedroom doorway. She walks in before I can even say yes. What now? My body tenses up, but I scoot my school books over so she can sit on my bed. Gigi's not about to budge, though. This is her room as much as it is mine. Dad tells me you found a doctor you like. Yeah, I hang my head down so my hair drapes around my face, a curtain to hide behind. It's easy to say what you think when you don't have to look at someone. I hated you dragging me to all those doctors. Mom takes a deep breath and exhales it as a sigh. I shouldn't have done that. It was a bad idea. Really bad, I add. So how are the appointments with the therapist going? Do you think she's helping? I nod. Mom reaches over, brushes the hair away from my face, gently cups my chin in one hand, and lifts it so we see eye to eye. I want you to be okay. That's all I've ever wanted. I thought all you've ever wanted was for me to lose weight, I think. I won't say it and run the chance of ruining the moment. This is the kindest Mom has been since, well, I can't remember when. And it's weird, but nice. On the run. Catalina is at the door, talking so quickly and crying so hard, it takes several minutes for me to understand what she's saying. Somehow, Gigi got out of the gate. Catalina saw her chasing the neighborhood squirrel and ran after her. She ran faster, thought it was a game. I couldn't catch her. I'm so sorry. I round up Anais and Dad. Catalina recruits her family. We divide up and scour the neighborhood. Catalina's family goes door to door. Anais checks yards. I jump in Dad's pickup with windows rolled down. We coast around block after block, calling out Gigi's name and stopping to look in bushes and culverts and check around trash cans. Hours later, I'm no longer calling out her name, just saying it between sobs. Gigi, please come home. Gigi's gone, but I'm lost. I swear to God, if Gigi died, like, we don't need a pet death in this. Like, there's plenty going on without this whole shtick. Like, I'm just not a fan of pet deaths in books in general, let alone kids' books. But also, why do we have this going on when it feels like we should be concentrating far more on interactions between Ellie and her mother? Starfish in distress. We give up the search close to midnight. We'll find Gigi, Dad says, giving me a hug before going to bed. And then I'll make us some soup out of that stupid squirrel. He's trying to help. It's not working. I can't sleep all night long. I leave voicemails for and send emails to every shelter, rescue, and vet I can find on the internet. When the sun comes up, I stare out my bedroom window, hoping a bird's eye view will help me spot Gigi. No use. Exhausted, I collapse onto my bed. I ball up, a starfish curling in its feet, showing signs of distress. The plan. I sit up straight when I get the text. Have your dog come alone. I don't recognize the cell number, but I know that address. It's just my luck that the person who found Gigi is someone who would hold an innocent dog for ransom just to be mean to me. I'll never understand how some people can be so cruel. They have no right to keep making my life miserable. I have the power to stop this. I come up with a plan. So my guess is that it's the enemy number 3 guy or something, maybe. I don't know, maybe Marissa or one of the others. I don't fucking remember all their names. But even so, like, even if this is her reconciling with the bullies or whatever, this could have been something far smaller. And honestly, I kind of have forgot about the bullies anyway. I would have much rather seen more dynamics between her brother and her mother and how that situation is navigating than this bullshit with the bullies. Held for ransom. I pound on the door. Marissa opens it. Give me my dog. Gigi squirming. I reach for her. Courtney blocks me. Not so fast. Gigi whimpers. Her tongue hangs out as she pants, overheating from panic. Give me my dog. She must be hangry, Marissa says. It just so happens we have a snack. Courtney leaves and comes back to the door, holding a whale-shaped cake. Eat it, Marissa barks. All of it, if you want your dog back. I focus on Gigi. It's okay, I assure her. Yeah, it's okay, Gigi, Marissa says. As long as Splash pays your ransom, we're about to find out just how much you're worth. Eat the cake, Blubberbelly. Marissa swings Gigi by her harness. She runs midair and reverse sneezes. What was that? Courtney asks. Who knows? Marissa rolls her eyes. It makes all kinds of weird noises, not unlike Splash over there. Eat, disgusting whale, eat. Gigi doesn't take her eyes off me. She trusts me. Trusts me like I trust water. I'd do anything for her. Courtney places the cake in front of my mouth. Marissa throws Gigi up in the air and barely catches her before she starts making a video with her phone. I'm not going to eat that, I say. Splash says for the first time ever, Marissa laughs. And I'm not going to let either of you bully me ever again. You two think you're better than me? You're just pathetic. Look at all you did to try to get at me. All the time you spent planning this. The money you forked over for the cake. I laugh and lean in. But enough about you two. Now give me my dog. Outnumbered. It all happened so fast. Courtney holds the cake closer to me. I flip it back, smashing cake all over her face. Clumps of frosting fall off and land on her feet. She scoops away chunks from her mouth and nose. I can't believe you did that. I defended myself. I closed in on Marissa. I said, give me my dog. Make me. It's 2 against 1, so you're out of luck, loser. I think your math's off, Catalina says, appearing all of a sudden at my side. Looks like it's 2 against 2. 3 against 2, Anaya shows up and locks arms with her. 6 against 2, Javier, Nat, and Izzy say. Captured on video. Gigi covers me in kisses all the way home. They didn't get the video they'd planned on, but I made a great one, Catalina says. Take a look. It's short and shows the cake smashing against Courtney's face. It plays forward and backward over and over. I'm tempted to post it on social media, but that would be attacking Marissa and Courtney and not defending myself. So I just sent it to Viv. I'm pretty sure I hear her laughing, clear from Indiana. So this whole section about her finally like getting back at Marissa and shit, and this whole power fantasy bullshit does not do any, like, it's clearly just to fulfill the fantasy of getting back at the bullies, because it doesn't help at all. And like, we knew that Marissa and Courtney weren't good people, but the holding the dog hostage thing just seems to be taking it to another level to me. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that one. Hasn't had her shots. I tell Dad Gigi needs to go to the vet. I don't think Marissa's had her shots. The vet finds a small scratch on one eye, probably from Gigi crawling around bushes as she chased the squirrel. Eye drops will make it all better, so physically, she's okay. Mentally, she's not. When I go for a swim, she who hates water whines to join me. She lies on my stomach as I float, trusting me more than ever. I feel guilty. What happened to her is my fault because I'm fat. That's wrong thinking. I replaced that thought. What happened to Gigi was because Marissa and Courtney are mean girls. Behold the thing. I'm sitting on my bed with my back to the door as I brush my hair. The bristles hit, the mother of all tangles. I wince. I can help. Mom sits next to me. I reluctantly hand her the brush. She works one section at a time, careful not to tug. I close my eyes as the brush massages my scalp, relaxing, soothing, comforting. Words not usually associated with Mom. I didn't realize how bad it was getting for you. The chair, the photoshopped picture, those weren't clues? And you see how I get treated. Sometimes you even blame me for the way others treat me. That's wrong, Mom. But what's worse is the way you treat me. You can be my worst bully. Mom hangs down her head. I've realized I've been saying the wrong things. I've always been better at writing than talking. I guess that's why I like being a writer. With writing, I can take the time to find the right words and not blurt out something I might not even mean. I've never been great at talking. No arguments there. Mom laughs. You're good with words. Just be careful to use them as tools, not weapons. I jump up. Great point, Mom. I look her in the eyes. You need to remember it too. Do you know what it feels like to be called a big ol' fat thing? I lean in. Thing? I say it softer, slower. I pull away, starfish, make myself as big as I can. Take a look, Mom. I turn in a circle, once, twice, 3 times. Am I just a thing to you? Behold the thing! Mom buries her face in her hands. I'm sorry, so very sorry. Thing is a terrible word. It should never be used to describe any person. I wish I could take back ever saying that. I honestly never meant to hurt you. Ever. I flop down on the bed, exhausted. I want to believe her, but I can't trust her. She tries to hug me, but I jerk away. The hurt's still too deep. After Mom shuts the door behind her, Gigi curls up against my neck, and we both fall into a deep sleep. Proud of me. At my next session with Doc, I tell her about Gigi and standing up to Marissa and Courtney. You defended yourself without attacking them. You did great. And that's not all. I give Doc the play-by-play. Tell her how I confronted Mom. When I get to the part about behold the thing, Doc stops taking notes, slides one hand up under her reading glasses, and presses on her tear ducts. Just like that, Mom wanted to hug me as if everything's fine now. Doc finishes my sentence. I nod. I feel better, but not okay. I think there's more I want to say. We'll work on it. Doc hands me a notebook and tells me what to do. And Ellie, I'm so proud of you. If only Mom could say that. I'm ready. Enough's enough. Catalina stops strumming her guitar, clunks it down on the patio chair, jumps into the pool, and puts her hands out like a stop sign. I stop swimming laps. Spill it, she says, as we tread water. I play stupid. Spill what? Don't even. I know you. Something's wrong. You've hardly said a word in days, even though I have some seriously mad conversation skills and can talk enough for the both of us. I'm getting tired of hearing myself speak. For several minutes, the only sound between us is Gigi snoring, snuggled up on my beach towel by the steps. Yikes. It's something big, isn't it? Catalina swims closer to me. I nod. My therapist wants me to confront Mom. Wowza! I dread it. But you need to, Ellie. You really do. I don't know how you've put up with it this long. What if it doesn't change anything? What if it makes matters worse? What if it helps? What if things get better? I hadn't thought like that. You're right. I always am. I laughed for the first time since Doc told me I needed to confront Mom. How can I help? Catalina asks. I need to figure out what I'm going to say. Practice on me. Pretend I'm your mom. So that's what we do for days. I rehearse my words with Catalina during laps in the pool, and at night with Gigi, who cocks her head from side to side, listening to my every word. I write them down too, in case I get all nervous and forget what I want to say. When the time comes, I'm ready. This is my time. Doc and I have company for today's session. Doc directs Dad and Mom to two chairs not usually in the office. Doc rolls her chair close to me. To be clear, you're here because Ellie asked you to come. I'm here to provide any support she needs to express her feelings about things that have happened, about words that have been said. Dad and Mom nod in understanding. Ellie, whenever you're ready, begin. I fold and unfold the bullet point list of what I'd planned to say. As I look over it, I realize I've been preparing for a trial, offering up a defense of why I should be loved. I toss it into the trash. I curl and uncurl the throw pillow tassels around my fingers. I don't feel like you love me, Mom. Mom leans forward, starts to say something. I stop her. No, you've said enough. It's my time to talk. Weight of words. I control my breathing like Doc and I have been practicing. Mom, I don't feel like you'll ever love me, can ever love me, unless I lose weight. I reach for a tissue as the words catch in my throat. I used to think I needed you to love me, or I would be incomplete. The tears flow. I don't blink them back or try to hide or bury them. I take my time, feel them, each and every drop. Feel them drain the pain. When my tears taper off, I look over at Doc. You're doing great. Need a break? I shake my head, start again. I have people in my life who love me, so I'll be okay. I smile at Dad. He reaches for his bandana and dabs his eyes. I clear my throat to make sure Mom hears my final words, and I'm learning to love me. The fat on my body never felt as heavy as your words on my heart. I walk over to her and place in her hands a notebook full of all the ugly words she's ever said to me. It's time for you to carry the weight. She crumbles. Catching a break. Fun news. Viv texts a photo of her with sunshine yellow hair striped with orange rays. Viv texts again. Bad news. Dad gets me for spring break. And again. Good news. That means I get to visit you. That's not good news, I text. What? That's the best news ever. Wailing Wall. On the drive to pick up Viv from her dad's place, I spot something and make a nice circle back. Sometimes when you see something all the time, you forget it's there, like the Wailing Wall in downtown Dallas, an outdoor mural featuring humpbacks. I feel so small looking up at them. They swim, they're smart, they have huge hearts, and they have a voice. I've always hated being called a whale, but it's actually a compliment. They're big, they're amazing creatures, and they're beautiful. 3 times the fun. What's better than a cannonball? 3 cannonballs. Catalina gets A for originality. She leaps into the air and flaps her arms like a newborn duckling, its wings pretty much useless for flight. But at least it feels like it's doing something to try to save itself as it falls. Viv starts out well, but lets go of her legs too soon and ends up doing a cannonball belly flop. Not to brag, but I nail it. Perfect form, perfect splash. Room for Starfish. I swim so often, my two besties, Viv and Catalina, tuck her out before I do. I drift over to them, and we stare at the sky, the ocean of the heavens. I tell Viv and Catalina about starfishing, how I'm not going to try to hide myself or make myself small anymore, how I'm proud to be me and to claim my right to take up space. I deserve to be seen, to be noticed, to be heard, to be treated like a human. I starfish. There's plenty of room for each and every one of us in this world. There's an author's note that I want to cover real quick, and then I'm going to give some serious final thoughts about it. Author's note. Starfish is a work of fiction, and a lot of people will read this and think it's definitely fiction because people would never say or do such cruel things. But a variation of every single mean thing people said or did to Ellie happened to me when I was a child. Fat girl rules exist. If you're being bullied, I understand what you're going through, and I care about you. You don't deserve it, ever, no matter what. Right now, many people think it's okay to bully people who weigh more than they do. My hope is that Starfish will change people's attitudes and that, one day, no one will be bullied because of their size for any reason. But until that day comes, know that no matter your size or who you are lovable and deserve for people to treat you like you're a valuable person, because you are. So there's our answer for that. This was basically a fantasy kind of rewriting some stuff that happened to her in a way like it's processing her own trauma or something. Unfortunately, there's so much here that I actually have issue with that isn't even necessarily connected specifically to the overall fat acceptance content of the book. One, the I deserve to be seen, to be noticed, to be heard, to be treated like a human being, or to be treated like a human. The thing is that yes, you deserve to be treated like a human, but there are many humans that are not seen, noticed, or heard. There are many 11-year-olds that are not seen, noticed, or heard. And while I understand that that's like an ongoing message, the truth is that the vast majority of people are probably not seen, noticed, or heard. That's just kind of part of life. It sucks for those that are not. It does. But that's not because you're fat. That's just unfortunately the reality for some people. Overall, though, my issue with Starfish doesn't even have much to do with the fat acceptance content itself. The metaphor of starfishing, the outright taking up space fat rhetoric shit, the doctor fat rhetoric shit, the plain fat acceptance rhetoric shit doesn't even bother me as much as the blatant abuseful mother that does this seemingly 180, like she actually gives a shit at the end. The characterization there is off because a mother that abusive does not, I don't believe, would have the self-awareness to and the willingness to put aside her own pride to say that she's sorry to her daughter. I just don't believe it. I don't like that dad is painted as this hero parent because he's kind of shit. And I hate that it's all excused because he didn't know. Bullshit. Bullshit. I call bullshit on that. Like, he knew. There were plenty of instances where he saw both his wife and his children mistreating his youngest daughter, and he did nothing. So I call bullshit on that. I don't like the way the brother was handled. I don't like that we didn't see anything from him at all after Thanksgiving. That doesn't work for me. The enemy number 3 line wasn't well resolved for me because it ended with Ellie with this weird superiority complex bullshit. The whole thing between Courtney and Marissa was like felt really shoehorned in. It felt really artificial, and I think it would have been far better to focus on some of the other running thread lines because we haven't seen Marissa and Courtney for like half the book. So I really don't care what's going on with them anymore. I understand that that needed to be wrapped up though. My biggest issue though, like my biggest issue is that for all the bullying that Ellie deals with, the only thing that is worse than what she did was the chair incident where she actually got hurt. But everyone else, they said cruel things to her, but Ellie regularly, like 3 separate times, performed an act of property destruction that was basically unacknowledged. It, like it was not like I'm not even don't even have an issue with Ellie doing that herself because she's 11 and she can feel you can justify a lot at 11 of like, well, you did this mean thing, so I'm going to do this. But the people at the Niagara Falls with the camera that pointed at the camera and pointed at her, they were asking if they could take her picture. She nods. She thinks that they want her to take a picture of them. They all crowd around her. Yes, there's this, ooh, look at the fat American vibe that I can get from that, and I understand that. And they take a picture, but they thought they had her permission, and I don't like that running thought that they didn't get her consent. They thought they did. They actually kind of did. Like it was a matter of communication issues and language barriers, not a matter of not respecting her as a person. I just want to throw that out there. And then on top of that, she pretends to take the picture. She could have just as easily deleted the picture with her in it, and I would not have had any issue. But instead, she somehow manages to take out the SD card, and then so they lose all of their holiday photos. She throws it over at Niagara Falls, and then the therapist says, "Yeah, you got angry. You didn't defend yourself. You just got angry." But like it then tells her to write a letter about how she feels, and they're still kind of blaming the tourists. It's like this was kind of a no asshole situation. Like I think Ellie had well, up until Ellie took out the SD card and destroyed their property. Up until that point, it was kind of a no asshole situation for me because they thought they had gotten her permission. There was a miscommunication. I understand why Ellie was hurt. Like all of that I understand. And if Ellie had just deleted the picture with her in it, it would have been a fine thing. Like then that's her putting boundaries up, rectifying the miscommunication, totally fine. But that's not what happens. Instead, Ellie fucking destroys property, and that action kind of feels validated. Like even in her letter at the end, she's like, "Yeah, I shouldn't have thrown away your SD card. That was wrong of me." But it feels like such an afterthought, and like she doesn't even really fucking mean it, that it bugs me. And then the whole journal that was put in her backpack by her mother that she didn't that neither one probably realized, that at least initially, that it was the brother's journal, and he's saying all these horrible things about his sister. Now the brother did plenty of things wrong, and I really think that he should have been punished at the moment with when he's bringing up the chair incident and reveling in her discomfort in that. That was the time to lay down the law with him, not the Thanksgiving thing. That was the time. That would have been the most impactful fucking moment. But it's not handled at all. And instead we get this thing where she finds this notebook with all of these um thoughts that he has about his sister. And to me, and then she burns it, and then she just gets in trouble for using the fireplace but not for burning her brother's property. And the issue that I have with that is that was like he has a lot of misdirected anger towards his sister as well as just kind of reveling in being cruel towards her. I feel like that's a two-part issue. And so he is venting his frustrations about his sister in a journal. I think that should have been semi protected even within the narrative, especially with her father being a psychiatrist. Like there should have been a discussion of like, I understand that you didn't like reading that. More steps should have been taken to keep that private since it was put in her backpack and she didn't know what it was. Like this was a tragedy of errors in a lot of ways. Um, but to burn the what was kind of a safe place for him to vent, as and that could have been used as, this is your private place to say what you want, even the things that aren't necessarily socially acceptable, even things that aren't particularly kind. That journal should have been a protected space for him, and he should have been punished for actively being cruel to his sister instead of having his journal burned. But it's not even addressed. It's like completely ignored, and she calls it trash, and it's pretty much left at that. I hate that was just completely glossed over. That drove me up the fucking wall. And then we have the therapist actively coaching Ellie to break the scale that her mother weighs her on. A scale that was, for all intents and purposes, actually her mother's property. And I understand that the mother had a lot of toxic issues. Like I get that. That could have Ellie could have stood up for herself in other ways other than breaking the scale. And I don't like that was then put at the bottom of the trash can with dog shit smeared on it, so that way her mother would get shit on her hands. And at least the breaking of the scale was actively encouraged by the psychiatrist. What the fuck? Under no circumstances should property destruction be seen as a valid way to defend yourself. Unless, like, we're talking, like, imminent danger, which this was not that situation. Like, to defend yourself against mean words and shit, and to destroy property as a way to defend yourself does not work for me. That, Ellie's property destruction going unacknowledged is probably my biggest issue with this book. That and the characterization of the mother and the father are also big issues. The way the brother was handled was an issue for me. Like, before we even get to the fat acceptance shit, before we even get to that shit and this kind of revenge fantasy and this power fantasy of the author and how that is fine if this is marketed towards adults, but this is a middle grade book and I have issues with that as well. There's so many issues with this book that go outside of FA rhetoric. Like, FA rhetoric is definitely several rungs down the list for me of issues that I have with this. Someone pointed out that kids reading this might think that with how abusive the mother is, they may think that's the level that you need to rise to in order for it to be considered abuse. And the mother is, like, exceptionally abusive, like blatantly abusive, outrageously abusive in certain circumstances, in certain situations. And they may excuse their parents' behavior because they see this as, like, this is what abuse is, which is also, like, a reasonable critique, I think, of the whole thing. There's just so many issues. And for me, the story really only works if you look at Ellie as an unreliable narrator. This book is told in first person perspective. So if we think about Ellie as an unreliable 11-year-old narrator, the story works a lot better. But I don't think that was the aim of the author by any means, and that's entirely too sophisticated for the target audience of the book. But I do want to just point out how this book actually works fairly well if we view Ellie as an unreliable narrator. The inconsistency in the behavior of her parents is kind of resolved that way because it's twisted based on Ellie's feelings. So mom is the big bad person, with dad, who's actually rather ineffectual, being put in a hero light simply because he's not as bad as mom. The whole, like, laughable evilness of Marissa and Courtney works a lot better if we view it through the eyes of Ellie purely and not view that as an objective situation. The whole scene with the doctor's office and her pulling out the scissors and saying, "Don't you want to make me skinny, doctor?" The fact that she wasn't taken for at least a quick mental health eval at that point and was just told to leave does not make any fucking sense to me from a medical perspective. But it makes sense if that's what Ellie wanted to do and she rewrote that situation and did that and was able to walk out confidently when maybe instead she said fuck you to the doctor or was just blatantly disrespectful, but it wasn't like that triumphant thing that was painted in that section. The story works if you view Ellie as an unreliable narrator and that not all of the situations in the book happened exactly as Ellie said it. Then the story works. We can actually do a whole dissection of it that way. I'm not going to because I've had enough of this book, but you can do a whole dissection of the story with Ellie as an unreliable narrator. And if you look at it situation by situation that way, things start to make a bit more sense. I still don't think that was how it was meant to be read, though. And given its target audience, I think all of these situations are meant to be taken at face value. Now, the author's note at the end pretty much confirms that this is a reworking of her past as maybe a way to work both through her trauma and just like a feel-good thing for herself. But it says, but a variation of every single mean thing people said or did to Ellie happened to me when I was a child. This, for me, facilitates we have to view Ellie as an unreliable narrator because the author is looking at this through a reflection viewpoint, and memories are flawed. And I don't mean to say that, like, these things didn't happen, but the level of absurdity of some of these situations variations can be taken to also higher or lower levels of extreme. I'm not saying that she wasn't bullied. I don't know if things, I don't know if I could say that the severity of the things that happened to Ellie happened to her. I don't know. I don't know Lisa Phipps's life. So I'm not going to claim anything like that, but I don't think that anything in this book happened faithfully. It was a faithful recreation of what she went through. There's general vibes, and I think a lot of how Ellie feels in this book is probably an accurate representation of how Lisa Phipps felt in her life. I'm very curious about the property destruction and how that ties in with her own past. But like mean things, probably being called a whale and stuff, I could definitely see how that happened to Lisa Phipps. Kids are cruel. Totally can see that. Had a few teachers that were her allies, can totally see that. Felt that she was hated by her mother, I can totally see that. Was her mother to the level of abuse? Possibly. Possibly her mother was this abusive, but I think what makes the mother character so unbelievable is that she does a 180 at the end and acts like she cares. And I think this is Lisa Phipps' wishful thinking of what happened, but it doesn't flow well with the rest of the story given how the mother has been characterized. So all of that is how I feel about Starfish. I'd like to hear final thoughts from you. Um, these are my thoughts on Starfish. I'm probably not going to read another Fat Acceptance book for a good long while. I'm reminded of why I don't do these very often. They're draining, and by the time you get to them, you're just fucking exhausted. So I'm going to leave this here. Thank you so much for watching. For everyone that's watched every video in this series, thank you. I know this wasn't super popular, but I'm glad I was able to finish it. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for watching it. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.